Hi girls.
Hello.
Welcome to the Women's Day, a seat at the table.
ये यही पहन सकती है पागल ऐसे एक राउंड टेबल डिस्कशन पे.
Do successful women find it more difficult to hone, manage or be in relationships?
Oh, that's interesting.
The world gets a little threatened by women who are successful and
The world gets threatened by women who are on the road to success. When you're successful, then they praise you. हाँ, हमने तो बोला ही था.
So I've been married for 12 years now, and I think, yeah, and
That was my Gen Z side coming
Yeah.
out. Sorry.
Me and Pooja single only. Pooja is not single. I am leaving this table right now.
You know, I grew up with like Punjabi relatives who would always tell me, your face is so pretty, why don't you lose weight? No one will marry you.
Most of us grew up in the 90s, and there was always an ideal physical form of what a woman should look like because the media portrayed that to us.
I have a problem with physical touch. I don't know why. Even if I have a boyfriend, I'll be like, देखो ऐसे ही करना है. ज़्यादा ये चिपका चिपकी नहीं चलेगी.
And my mother taught me this. There is no perfect mother. I want to be a mom, whether there's a man involved or not.
The thing is that it was such a done thing to get married and have children that's why I never wanted to do it.
until I didn't have a child, I had no clue about the generational trauma that was passed on to me.
She saw my profile and she was like, "Didi, aap ladka thi."
A part of me wants to have a child so that I can have that relationship that I had with my mom with somebody else.
Your relationships to your sisters and your mother and things like that. I think
You know, that is the reason, bro.
I'll have to beep the whole thing.
Hate for women online is very sexual in nature.
Separation rumors between a cricketer and his wife.
Whoa. Yes.
The comments on her handle are so triggering and so ridiculous.
In our head, our cricketers are hero.
Yeah.
वो तो कुछ गलत कर ही नहीं सकते हैं. बच्चा है दूध पीता.
Post a photo of a flower also I'll get. भाभी तेल लगा दो ना पैरों पे.
I feel I'm
So if you're assertive as a woman, you're difficult to work with. Madam तो हर समय अकड़ू रहती.
करते हो.
should be. अभी नहीं करते तभी तो यहाँ बैठ के रो रही हूँ.
Sometimes when men call women gold diggers, I'm like, where is the gold?
Hi girls. Hello. Welcome to the Women's Day, a seat at the table. And I'm very excited to be chatting with all of you guys. I wish we could have recorded the conversations that were anyways happening off screen.
I do it again.
Yeah, it took me a while to get the decorum, saying we are starting, keep quiet, let's roll. Okay, so we're going to do intros and we're going to do it in a really different way. So if you were to introduce yourself without actually mentioning your name or your profession or your accolades, how would you do it? And we will start with Urfi.
Oh, अरे. You know, I'm just going to just show them this T-shirt. That is my introduction.
This is your introduction.
That's it. ये यही पहन सकती है पागल ऐसे एक round table discussion पे only she can wear it. So you know
I
who
love
I
it.
am.
We all love it.
I to love everything and
Okay,
Wow.
so this was hers. So you came and sat next to me.
Yeah, wrong decision.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to say my name.
No,
Or my
no name, no
or-
profession, no accolades. Just who are you?
I am a really random person and I have no plan for my life. But the world has found some space for me.
Yeah. Okay. Pooj. Oh, I said your name. Okay.
This is tough.
Yeah, na?
I think I'm just a super chill, loving girl, very ambitious, and just working on as hard as it is, just like accepting and loving myself every day.
Okay, amazing. We'll go this side. Anshula.
I'm a woman still trying to figure out what is the one thing that gives me the greatest amount of joy, and on that journey I am just trying to be as authentically myself as possible. I don't know how else to introduce myself to you.
Okay, let's go with you.
I'm someone who loves to have a lot of fun, and I honestly don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just here to have a good time.
Okay, amazing. And last, but not the least.
Okay, hard one. I think every label that was ever assigned to me I've rejected in some way, whether it was doctor, a boy, don't want to do. Very chaotic, extremely chaotic in life. So I think let's go with chaotic.
Okay. So that's amazing, right? So because as women, we're
Wait,
like,
you didn't do yours.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to
what
do
is this?
anything.
Come on.
Why are you part of the table?
Okay, fine. So, wow. So my brain is so like, yeah, my brain is so wired to be like,
also hard
what's
to
the
go
next
last on
question?
this.
Yeah. I'm just a human.
Of Bombay.
I plugged in without
Nice
plugging.
branding.
Yeah. So you know, as women especially, we're tagged with so many different labels, so many different qualities that you're supposed to have. Like, you know, we're grown up subconsciously to be like, women are nurturing, they're mothers, they're home givers, they're caretakers. Obviously, that has evolved in terms of a narrative over the past few decades, but it's still very unclear, right? Like, what is too ambitious? Like you said, I'm ambitious, or like, what are the roles that define us, or do they define us? So the question I have is, what is it like to be a woman, and what is being a woman to you individually? And we can start with anybody who volunteers. Now, I'm not going to be this teacher.
Can I go second? I'll go second.
Okay, I can go first. So I think for me personally, I've played so many roles in the last 35, 38 years, and every role has been so different. There are so many roles I don't identify with anymore. The role that I had maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I became a mother, I became a wife, and you know, this professional role that we play. My only goal as a woman has been to shed every piece of identity that I have so that I can give myself space to explore more. And so earlier, I of course would be very tied down to this role. Oh, I'm a young mother, I'm a new mother, so I need to fulfill these responsibilities. But then as I began to shed that slowly, I realized that there's so much joy in just that freedom of not having any identity attached to your name.
Yeah. Thank God I picked number 2. I'll be done. You know, interesting that you mentioned, because I think when I was in the 6th grade, we had this assignment in class of drawing the ideal woman. And it was so interesting to me because the one that won this so-called contest, it was a deity, okay? It was like a Durga with like 10 hands. And she had like a pan in one hand and one cell phone in one hand, and basically like, you know, a multitasker kind of woman. Which was still, you know, a far cry from what our parents grew up with, I'm sure. But I realize now that, you know, this idea that a perfect woman needs to be able to do everything, and perfectly so. I saw my mother struggle with it, you know, as a mother, as a working mother. So I had, very fortunately, touched with the freedom to be whatever I wanted to be in so many ways. Not that it was easy or accepted right away, but that freedom was there. So what does it mean to me? I think there's no one answer to what an ideal woman or even a woman is. Every single one of us feels it a different way, right? But it's just something that I inherently believe I am and always have. And to me, it's about resilience. If I were to put one word to it, this city taught me that, actually. You know, it's your resilience that's tested the most on a daily basis. And that, I think, and that's not to say that a woman should tolerate, because that's what we're taught, but there is an underlying inherent strength to being a woman. That's what I identify as, you know.
Yeah. So I grew up with a brother, and I come from a Punjabi house, but we grew up very equal. So growing up, I never really thought there was a difference between who we are and what we can achieve and not. In fact, when it was time to go to university, you know, my parents were like, okay, we'll send both our kids. And the extended family was like, why are you spending money on your girl? And, you know, all those kind of things. My parents were like, they're equal. So for me, I only realized that there is a distinction once I started working. And I started working very young in a male-dominated field. And that's when I understood that, you know, people would come and be like, oh, if you're a 23-year-old girl starting a business, either it's your father who's doing everything for you, or you have a husband who's backing you, or your husband doesn't exist anymore. Like those are the things that were thrown at me.
Yeah.
And for me, I just took it in my stride, and I said that let me embrace the positive sides of being a woman. There's so much love that came my way because I was a young girl doing what I was doing, and I said let me just change and shift focus on that, and this other stuff, where your energy goes, that's what you allow to expand. So I
Yeah.
just kind of moved away from it, but that's the first time I realized that this distinction is so vast.
Yeah, like it exists even. And do you feel, a follow-up question here, do you feel like it's gotten better since then?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
But that's also because it's been 15 years working in the industry, and
yeah.
now it's very different from a young 23-year-old girl who nobody knew trying to do something versus me doing something today. There's definitely a difference. But I do see a lot of young girls who are starting businesses, and I see that it is far easier for them now, which is a great change to see and observe.
Yeah, and also it's, when you say that I'm starting a business, nobody's shunning you anymore. Like
Yeah.
nobody's like, oh, it's not going to work out, or like, even in different professions, right, to be an actor, like we've interviewed so many people who are like, so many girls who have that dream and it's not squashed immediately.
Yeah.
So how's your experience been?
Well, it's been quite amazing actually. I don't think I would want to be anything else but a woman. I think it's very beautiful first, and I've had different sort of stages with it. I think my first sort of conscious understanding of really owning my feminism in one sense was when I went to LSR in Delhi, and there was this college full of really spirited women, and I really sort of found a voice for, I think, the feminism that I already had, which I think is very inherent and innate, and it's just that I found a voice for it, and I found a community for it, and that was a very lovely phase in my life, and I think that's really sort of built a very solid base to move on from. And I think it's just been lovely to be able to, through the work that I'm doing, sort of be able to attempt to examine the inner lives of different kinds of women. And that has just been wonderful as an experience, because whether it's a woman who is sort of physically and who sort of looks like she's conforming, but what is the inner life of that person, and how does she find the mischief to sort of still break a barrier? And that has always been very amazing to me about the lives of women around me. Like the women I grew up with, they were leading very traditional lives and following stereotypical norms on the surface, but they always found a way to break that, and that has always been very exciting to me, and to be able to play that in the roles that I've had an opportunity to be a part of, and also to sort of own your body in a particular way. I think I grew up in a way that I sort of didn't practice one side of my physicality. I was always shy and petite, and and feminine, and I was always Mother Mary in the school play. So I sort of thought that was my role, and by getting an opportunity to play somebody like Veena Tripathi, I've got a chance to own another kind of physicality.
Stab people.
So and really sort of be sexual in an unapologetic way, So I really enjoyed that, and to be able to live so many different kinds of lives.
And I loved that part about your character, right? Like she was so open about her sexuality. Like like she's from this rural place called Mirzapur, where she's just like vehemently like, but I want this to pleasure me.
Yeah, and she's finding ways to survive in a very
I remember you said this line in season 1 where you were like, "Hum bhi survive karenge." I was like, oh my God, that hit me so hard.
Hum bhi survive karenge, tum bhi survive karoge, because she's essentially talking to her child.
Child.
So yeah.
Love it.
So I'm going to tackle this from a physicality point of view first, just picking up on what Rasika was just telling us. So I grew up in the 90s, most of us grew up in the 90s, and there was always an ideal physical form of what a woman should look like, because the media portrayed that to us, whether it was a ad that we saw on TV, whether it was certain female characters in a film that we saw, models we saw, or the expectation that people had of what a woman's body should be once she becomes a woman. I have inherently always been a big-bodied, chubby person my entire life. I'm taller than most. I do not have straight hair, I have curls. All of these three things are basically against the norm of what a woman is supposed to be. A woman is supposed to be petite and small built. I am not. The ideal woman in the 90s had silky straight hair. Livon Silky Potion was like the rage, and those
Yeah.
Sunsilk commercials, etc. I had curls. Fortunately, I grew up in a family that was not ever throwing these norms at me, but I also grew up in a very beautiful family that also makes me feel like I am different from them. So just physically trying to match to what a ideal woman should be essentially led me to go into a shell of my own, because I didn't know what to do with my curly hair. So I always kept it short in what essentially was called a boy cut when we were growing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what to do with my curls,
Yeah.
and I didn't want my curls to be wild because it was called a lion's mane at that point.
Yeah.
I tried to have a hunch and make myself as small and invisible as I possibly could. I wore the darkest color clothes, the baggiest clothes, so I could physically hide. And somewhere down the line, it just sort of, without any external human being in my life telling me that you are enough or that you are not enough, I just took it upon myself that I don't see a visual representation of myself in the media, meaning I am wrong, meaning that I am not enough, meaning that there is something inherently not feminine about me.
Correct.
I think it took me 20 years and a butt ton of therapy to kind of figure out the fact that there is, like how Trin was saying, there's no ideal woman.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, the girls growing up in our society with access to social media, with access to people outside our country, with access to media and cinema outside our realm, they get to see people who look like them. I think I was 17 years old, or maybe a little bit shy of being 17, when I saw somebody successful as a curly-haired girl, when I saw somebody portrayed in the media who was bigger-bodied, but she was not being the butt of jokes, or she was not the comic relief.
Yeah.
I feel like now girls have that to kind of look up to as that, not a role model, but at least have someone to kind of figure out that, okay, I'm not alone. If I look a particular way, it's not something to be shunned. There are maybe millions more who look like me, and they perhaps were not portrayed like that earlier, but now it's a little bit more accessible. So for me today, being a woman is about being malleable, but it's also about having power to be authentically who you are, as opposed to hiding what you thought you want to become or who you are.
Yeah.
And if you ask me how I would define what I am today, or what I feel like an ideal woman is today, I think she's powerful in her rawness. I think she's authentic, and I think she has as much power as she thinks the world can wield on her. She has more than that power, just if she comes into her own and understands that inherently who she is and what her worth is cannot be defined by externally what she looks like in the mirror.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
So I just went for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Urfi is in deep you put Urfi in contemplation.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, whoa.
That was the power
Yeah.
That was the power of a speech.
She is unusually quiet. Yeah.
No, I'm listening to different viewpoints and thoughts which I have never heard.
Yeah.
Honestly, everyone's mind goes in one direction, but it's also important to hear different thoughts. So, I mean, the viewpoints are different, and I like it. And yeah, I was just thinking when Pooja said, that when she started, I was just wondering that, when she started, women, ऐसे तो औरतों को किचन में ही देखने की आदत है लोगों को, लेकिन जब वो उससे पैसा कमाएंगी तब लोगों को दिक्कत है.
Yeah, that's so
क्योंकि
interesting.
शेफ मेल ही चाहिए. तो मैं यही सोच रही थी पूजा के बारे में. तो इट मस्ट बी डिफिकल्ट फॉर हर व्हेन शी स्टार्टेड.
Correct.
क्योंकि जब तक आप फ्री में किचन में कमा रहे हो, कर रहे हो, बहुत अच्छा है, लेकिन हाउ डेयर यू थिंक अबाउट अर्निंग मनी थ्रू इट. सो दैट इज लाइक when she was saying, I was like,
and
yeah.
that's interesting, right? Because you also said that when you start a business back then, you are either, it must be father's money or husband's money. You need a supporting role because khud to nahi kar sakti. That's the ideology. So in the context of all your careers, right, and everybody is doing very, very interesting things. You are established. You are doing amazingly well. What is the perception been towards your career and towards ambition? And is it true that they say that successful, strong, ambitious women are intimidating? I have a part 2 to that question, but first we'll answer this part and then I'll come to that.
I think women can be intimidating regardless of where they are at in their professional lives. If you choose to be a homemaker, your worth is not defined by the fact that you're not earning money outside. You can be equally intimidating by having the power of running your own house, and that's no less of a job.
Yeah.
I think it's much easier now for women to sort of understand that they hold power, and just because they don't hold a position of a CEO or a head of a particular company doesn't mean that their power is lesser.
Correct.
100%.
I think, and you're understanding that you can have the ability to set a boundary.
And it's okay to have it.
Yeah, it's
that
okay to have a
Yeah.
boundary, and you must have a boundary, and boundaries and assertiveness have nothing to do with gender. It's to do with being a human being.
Yeah.
And I think people now are kind of understanding that a little bit more. I'm sorry, what was the other part of your question?
So the other part of my question was that do successful women find it more difficult to hone, manage, or be in relationships?
Oh, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
That's
because
interesting.
that's a question that I mean I've been asked the most. Like I say this in
Yeah.
almost every TED talk that I've interviewed some of the most iconic people as part of what I'm proudest of. But the question I get asked the most is when are you getting married? And that is settled, married. Like it's not. It's like okay, that's great, and it still happens.
Yeah.
It really does still happen. Like that's all great, but settle kab ho gaye? Or like
You're not really successful until you haven't given birth to those children.
Yeah, exactly. So there are
Yeah.
those measures, right? But does it impact the relationships or the ability to be in relationships when you're very vocal about where you stand or have the boundaries?
I think this is going to be individual in terms of relationship to relationship, because there is equal onus on the partner, whether that partner is a male or that partner is a female. There's equal onus on that partner to be proud of who they've chosen to be in a relationship with. So for example, in my relationship, my boyfriend lifts me up. He's proud of what I do, who I am. He's also supportive. And I understand this happens a lot, and it's very unfortunate that it happens, that the person making more money ends up having more power in that relationship because they use money to wield that power. I mean, I'm sure here everyone else has a lot more world experience and lived experience than I do, and I'm sure they've also faced certain setbacks in that sense.
But I agree, so I've been married for 12 years now, and I think, yeah.
I've been married for 14 years.
To get a bigger vow.
Whoa, Rasika.
And we both survived.
That was my Gen Z side coming out. Sorry.
What are you saying? You're also in a relationship now. Shut up. Me and Pooja are single. Only we both can say, wow.
Pooja's not.
Pooja is not single. That's why I can eat cupcakes and get
So that's why we have different viewpoints, guys. We have married people,
But like
we
you
have
were
unmarried.
saying, 14 years of
14 years.
Yeah, no, 14 is
14
her.
is
12.
Yeah.
12.
No, so I feel financial independence is a big reason why a lot of people survive marriages these days, because there's very less expectation on the spouse to provide everything. From one person you can't expect emotional, physical, financial satisfaction. So if the woman, because traditionally men are financially independent, women are not traditionally, but now if the woman is financially independent, then she takes off a lot of stress from the man to constantly be fulfilling her needs. And I think that is a recipe for at least having a happy, stable marriage. Because at least in my house, a lot of the financial decisions are taken by the women in the family, whether it's me, just by virtue of my job, whether it is my mother-in-law who's been an investor in the stock market for like 20 years, whether it was my mother who was always a working woman. So in a way, because all the financial decisions are taken by the women, it takes a lot of the stress off the man to fulfill on every front. And I think, just to agree to the point that she was making, I think money plays a big role, both positive and negative, in a stable relationship.
Also, if there's in a relationship, if you, as a woman, if you are financially independent and the relationship is not serving its purpose, or you are unhappy, or if it's not working out, you no longer have to be in it just because you have no way to survive and make your own life outside of that relationship. I feel like financial independence gives you that power to basically be your independent self and come into a coupling kind of a situation
Which is also
For the-
why I think
yeah.
marriages aren't working the way that they used to earlier.
Because you have an out.
you have an out and
Yeah.
you don't have to sit
Perhaps.
and tolerate.
You have
We were talking
agency
about it.
to be like,
Yeah.
I'll survive in the world if
100%.
on my own, if should it come to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And marriage is not this lock that a woman is locked into because she can't leave. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm glad, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You
No,
were
no,
saying, continue. Yeah, yeah. Continue.
14 years.
14
Oh,
years
yeah.
and then we go to Pooja.
What was the question?
I think
What was the question?
we've diverted
Are
far
women
too much.
intimidating by virtue
is
of their
it, yeah,
profession?
is are successful women intimidating, and do they find it more difficult to make
To be in a
relationships, to
relationship.
sustain a relationship?
Well, I think successful women are generally threatening to the world. The world seems to be threatened by us. I don't, and that's not very healthy, because I think that sort of leads to a situation where we have to navigate all sorts of things in a working environment, especially when you're trying to collaborate creatively in a work situations, because also creative collaborations as opposed to any other, as opposed to very transactional ones, there's a lot of your inner life involved, you know, so that it's a very tricky space to get into. Personally, in my experience, I have never found it to be threatening at all. In fact, it's just been absolutely. I've always had encouragement from my partner, and also a lot of like my partner's also my husband's also an actor, and you know, so we've kind of sort of seen each other through lots of bad auditions and rejections and not getting checks and not being treated well on shoots and not getting the roles that you want and then finally getting the roles you want. So it's been a very fun journey to be able to share my movement in my career with him, and that's been absolutely lovely. But I feel that generally the world gets a little threatened by women who are successful, and that's very, very hard to navigate. You have to sort of at every stage, and I have personally found it very difficult to.
World gets, I feel, sorry to interrupt, I feel that world gets threatened by women who are on the road to success. When you're successful, then they praise you.
Then they're subservient also.
Yeah,
to
then they're like, हाँ हमने तो बोला ही था जब आप उस रोड पे होते हो.
मतलब प्रेज भी अगर हो, वो प्रेज भी अगर करें तो उसकी ये जरूरत नहीं, ये जरूरी नहीं कि वो इज्जत भी दें.
Correct.
You know, प्रेज तो मिलता ही है, क्योंकि जो सक्सेसफुल हो जाता है, whoever is the flavor of the season, everybody feels very comfortable to sort of talk about them or encourage them. But resistance I feel बहुत मिलता है.
There is resistance.
And वो जानना बहुत मुश्किल होता है कि ये resistance किसी gender bias की वजह से है कि बस resistance ही है. You know, it's very hard to sort of identify a gender discrimination, which is why it's very hard to sort of battle it. That is because it is very subtle, which is true of any kind of discrimination, you know.
So I feel I'm not successful right now. तो मैं अभी मतलब I'm on that road.
Urfi yaar.
Firstly, she comes and says, I have to lose weight.
Are you
I'm so
fishing?
fat.
Not
Then she
lose
says,
weight, I've
I'm not
lost it. No.
successful.
I feel I'm on the road to success. I'm not as successful as I want to be. So right now it is difficult for me. Maybe when I'll reach that point, it
What
won't
is
be.
success for you?
I love this.
I mean, before you dive into that, there's just one other point that I sort of want to bring out to the table and get your opinions on it. Particularly in certain professions, this is way more true, but sometimes for a woman to actually carve her own niche and be a lot more looked at as an equal or be successful, she has to project a certain kind of outward power, outward hostility, command a room in a particular way so that her voice is actually heard.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you're doing that just because you want to be able to have an equal voice, people start looking at you and putting that tag on you saying she's arrogant.
Yeah.
Look at the way that she's physically behaving. She's intimidating. She gets her work done because she's intimidating.
She's
And I
difficult
think
to work
work
No,
with.
if you're assertive as a woman, you're difficult to work with. If you're
You're
assertive as a
bossy.
man, you're like, अरे
You're
वाह,
bossy.
देखो सर ने कितने अच्छे से हैंडल किया सिचुएशन
But I do
और मैडम तो हर समय अकड़ू रहती है.
But I do feel like I think I heard this, like I think I heard Faye D'Souza say this, that initially when she used to enter a room, she would have to sit in a particular position, sit in a particular way,
Yeah.
talk in a particular tone to be able to even be heard.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of corporate professions, perhaps maybe girls face that a lot. I think maybe even Pooj may have faced that because she did
Rasika for sure.
Rasika
Like,
for
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
and even Pooja for sure, because she did also enter a male-dominated field where I feel like women's voices were really not
So
in the room at all.
I mean, it's just very hard to be
Yeah.
assertive in an environment where you feel things are already against you. You know, the moment you're going to be assertive, somebody is going to say, "Oh,
Say,
she's
she's
very
very-
difficult,"
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
You
that's
lose work
something
because
that
of
I've
it.
yeah,
really
100%.
struggled with and continue to struggle with. And I think it's also a lot of it is an internal thing also, where I think somewhere by being in this world, in spite of having influences which were very positive in terms of you know, an environment of a feminist college, a household which was not very patriarchal in that sense, though every household in this country and this world is
In some format
in
is,
some
yeah,
way
yeah.
or the other, but not, I mean, blatantly so. I feel like I have struggled a lot to sort of come to a point where I have finally, in some situations, been able to tell myself that to maintain the peace of this room is not my job. You know, it's not my job to keep everybody in this room in a state of no conflict, because the moment I would see a conflict emerging, I would feel like it is my responsibility to make this all work.
Yeah,
You know?
100%. yeah.
Because I guess that's how we've all seen things around us happening.
But it
So-
does. I mean, in a lot of households, you come from a very, I would say, privileged in a way, kind of a household where a lot of decisions are also taken by the women. But in a lot of households, women are told what to do. They aren't even asked for an opinion, let alone the choice to make a decision, whether it is something as basic as what needs to be cooked at home, or something as basic as should we have a child. It's just always told that, okay, we are doing this. It's never asked, and it's never a conversation that people want to even have in most households today. And I feel like that agency is, regardless of what we say, maybe tier 1 has that agency, maybe tier 2 is getting that agency, but most of our country is not.
No, 100%. Yeah.
I want to talk about this from two professions, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's very different. Back in medicine, I remember, you know, this is funny because this was pre-transition, so I was still living in boys' hostel and things like that. But, you know, it's assumed that I had male privilege at the time, right? Because I was born as such. But that's not true. I was a very feminine boy, which essentially means that I wasn't man enough. So in that professional space, as a medical student and as a doctor, there is a projection of an image that we all have, right, as doctors, what that looks like in society, whether it's a man or woman. As a man, I didn't fit that, right? So my peers never gave me that respect. But patients could see the short hair and thinking, piercing and all is there, a little bit floral print is there, but boy,
Yeah.
right? So they would call you doctor. But when I transitioned, they immediately went from doctor to sister. I was like,
Still a doctor. yeah.
when did this happen? And there would be times when, you know, I would be there and I'm a fairly intimidating woman or person because I'm like 5'11" and I have this voice, right? Like it's a heavy sounding voice. I'm not demure and tiny. So
You're demure, but
Demure.
not tiny.
This demure
I mean,
trend that has
I can be
started.
demure if I want.
Yeah.
No. But as a doctor, you can't be that because people will not respect your authority. So you conduct right from internship to being the HOD, you conduct yourself with a certain degree. But still, they would call you sister. And there's nothing wrong with being a nurse. They run the hospital. I have so much respect for every single one of them. But
Yeah, but you're not that.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that change, you know, you studied this hard to get to that point. And then to have to sit and be like, I'll wait for the doctor to come. I'm like, hello?
I am the doctor. Yeah.
So, you know, that happened. But then you get to this city, and this city really taught me gender equality. And I'll tell you why. Because, you know, you get support from every gender, but you also get disdain from every gender.
Yeah.
It's like you have people of all genders wanting you succeed, and you have people of all genders wanting you to fail.
Yeah.
It's a thing, and I've noticed it, and I think I've made my peace with it also, because at the end of the day, you know, as someone who's transitioned from one gender to another, you really see the world in many different ways,
Yeah.
and you realize that, you know, this feeling of empathy, this feeling of envy, jealousy, hatred, these are all universal things.
It's not gender based.
It's not gender based. I think there is a conditioning involved, right? There is a power system involved that's been conditioned into us. And that's the funniest thing that I noticed through my transition, right? In many situations, I felt like you know, as a man, I was expected to be aggressive. I was expected to be a certain level of powerful. So I tried and I learned that. But when I would do that as a woman, or when I do that as a woman now, suddenly it's like, hello,
Yeah.
where
too
is the
much.
She's
womanhood?
too
much.
Where
She's
is the
too much.
femininity? And it's such a bizarre shift. And very recently, I was auditioning for a cis woman's part, which itself is a huge deal because I grew up seeing, you know, like men play trans women's parts. So for me as a trans woman to audition for a cis part is such a big deal. But even then, it was like, voice is a little bit aggro, no? It's like, interesting. I mean, so the thing about success, we were talking about success, I feel like there's so many different points on that scale of success, and the city has so many of those points. So there's really no way for you to ever feel like you're enough.
Yeah.
At no point in any career will you ever be enough until you have that internal sense of,
Yes.
I'm
And
going
that's
to
why I was
get
talking
there. I will get there. There are places to go. There is ambition, but that ambition cannot be the same as insecurity.
Yeah.
You know, that where I am is not enough. You
Correct.
can always say, I have more to do while being secure. And that's been such a solid lesson in the last,
Yeah.
you know, couple of years.
Yeah.
But relationships you were talking about.
Tired.
So already I'm like exhausted. So I'm gonna ask Pooja now, and I'm gonna say that you're always somebody who's worn your heart on your sleeve. You're really raw and authentic, and like you're very honest with whatever experiences that you have or aren't having. And like I think that's what makes it so relatable, right? So how has your experience been with balancing personal versus professional?
I feel like for the longest time when you start a business, it's so consuming. So I think my 20s just disappeared by the time I like put my head up to see like it was, you know, you'd built this amazing thing, like you see so much growth, work is going great, but then you just look up and you're like, oh, what is going to happen to my personal life? And I feel like Anshula said, right? Like I also grew up very insecure about my looks, very insecure about my body, growing up feeling that I wasn't worthy of love. You know, I grew up with like Punjabi relatives who would always tell me, your face is so pretty, why don't you lose weight? No one will marry you. So in my head, I had all these things that I had to work through, like a lot. So by the time it came to like relationships and dating, when I started Love 15, I was seeing someone quite seriously. And then when that ended, I was like, okay, take a break and just focus on the business. And then recently now I've decided that it's time to, you know, look at the other side of life as well. So it's been quite an interesting couple of years.
And what's interesting is that it came from you.
Yeah.
It was when you were ready, or when
Yeah.
you decided that, you know, it's time and I feel good about it. Whereas in society, you're often told that it's the right time now.
You know, and I feel so lucky that I have parents that are so extremely supportive in the sense that they have never once, because I know I have like school friends that I grew up with whose parents constantly talk to them about marriage and settling down, etc., etc. My mother, I think because she never got an opportunity to, she actually got into LSR when she was 19, and then she was moved from Delhi to Bombay and she got married. So she never got to live out her dreams. So I feel like for my mother, she's always been like, what you're doing is so much more important. So every time I would go to her, you know, I'd be like, where is this arranged marriage? Then, you know, why aren't you finding me a boy? Like, find me a boy. And then I think they tried, like they spoke to one, two Panditjis and stuff. And then he was like, he's like, no, she's like successful and she's working and she's that. We can't find her a match. So my parents very early on were like, you find your own person.
Yeah.
So like, we are not doing anything. We're happy with whatever you want to do. So I guess I was very lucky that I got to make decisions myself. And I think it's been a process about just like learning how to be with yourself, really see who you are, your worth, what is it defined by, and then actually find a partner who's secure enough to you know, be with you and let you be, like Anshula said, like someone who actually encourages you. So yeah, that's something that's very new for me, so I'm enjoying it right now.
You're so happy.
Yeah.
And wow, there's an applause.
There's an applause.
And you're happy and you know.
Like just moment of solidarity.
Like wow, yeah, like we're so happy for you. And we both have always given each other advice, like, hey, listen, we read this manifestation book.
I'm like, read this
and
book,
this
read
video. And have you tried this? So we've always kept with each other, and as you start talking to more and more people, you realize that there's some kind of pattern, right? Like where it's kind of not parallel. Like, there are women who are very fortunate and very happy who seem to have it all. Like the career, the relationship, the marriage, the children. But that's small. Like whenever I've spoken to people, whenever I've spoken to women, it almost seems like it's a given, right? Like either one is going really well, both are not going really well. What are your thoughts? Drinking water.
So honestly, I've struggled a lot. Like for you, it was your relatives who told you that if you're this weight, you won't get married. But it's I think, I don't know, like past couple of years, I've just lost, like, how do I say it? मतलब self worth थोड़ी सी मुझे लगता है यार.
Do you need a hug?
No. No, this topic was in my show also.
But I think it's a learning process for everybody. Like when and it's also about timing. Like Pooja
My
said.
mascara is not waterproof. So it's not I just feel like the society has made me feel like I'm not worthy of love, and it has deeply got rooted into me, and now I just feel like maybe I'm not worthy.
You are worthy of
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
Everyone's worthy of love. You're worthy just because you're a human being, not because you have to do something to become worthy.
That's not to therapize you. I
No,
hate
no.
sounding like a therapist.
No, but that
No,
was like
I
true.
did. I did
It's
therapy. I did. But I think it's more like a thing which I have to deal with internally, and I didn't want to cry. Like, what the f***?
No, it's okay, but it's tough. I'm telling
हर
you.
शो में जाती हूँ बोलती हूँ नहीं रोना है और रो देती हूँ मैं. यही होता है यार. बेइज्जती हो जाती है.
Very selfishly, I must say, I'm glad you cried
Yeah.
because I might too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not the only
Yeah.
one.
But I think this just goes to show that insecurities are in each and every one of us,
Yeah.
regardless of how successful we are, because that entire measuring yardstick
Yeah.
of success is so different
And now
for
I can
everyone.
sorry now I can hug you. That time I was like no, because I thought I'm very bad with hugs actually, so I can't hug people. Like it's the
I'm
thing.
very good. I can
Yeah, I
engulf
can't
them
hug. So if you
completely.
hug me, if I don't know, if you've noticed, I never hug.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's like, huh.
Oh, you do the side hug.
not side hug. I have a problem with physical touch.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Even if I have a boyfriend, I'll be like, देखो ऐसे ही करना है. चिपका चिपकी नहीं चलेगी. I have a problem, man. So
It is tough, like even when, especially because all my girlfriends started getting married and everybody started getting married
At the
together.
same
At the
time.
same time, then they
At
have
the same
babies at the same time.
And I slowly started realizing that I need to make new friends because everybody is doing like couple dinners, everybody is doing like couple trips, and then your friendships
Group
evolve.
Baby showers? That's
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
It's like
For baby
perennial
showers.
single girl energy.
But you
Yeah.
know, I have a very interesting thing to say to Urfi, because whenever I watch you on social media, I get a sense of so much self-confidence, right? Now, as any other normal human being, any other normal girl, you see other women, successful women, strong women, pretty women, beautiful, and you feel like you're not enough. Like as Anshula was saying, growing up as well, right? When you see other women having this hourglass figure, any woman feels like she's not enough. But when you see people like Urfi exude so much self-confidence in public, you get that you take a little bit of that self-confidence from there. And today, to see you so vulnerable, it's amazing, because just the fact that you can be so vulnerable, you can be so authentic, is amazing
we
in
cut
itself.
this
But
She's already thinking.
I agree. I think that, when it comes to being a strong woman, quote unquote, when you're branded that in any capacity, it's such a burden to bear.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Because what human being is strong all the time? Like, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And
Yeah.
I think
yeah, I am
Um,
not. No one can be.
no one
strong
can be.
all
I
the
think when I
time.
transitioned, I didn't even ask for this label of strong person, strong woman.
Yeah.
But
No,
I
I
think,
asked for it. I want to
She
see
was like,
it.
हाँ मैं हूँ.
I think, it's
There are days, but
unfortunate.
I think there are days.
There are days,
I
and I
mean,
think that
some-
every individual from any marginalized community that does anything at
Yeah.
all with their life is automatically pedestalized, and maybe rightfully so. But I think you have to accord every strong person, every strong woman also a certain degree of vulnerability, like,
Yeah.
because that's also human at the end of the day. So, thank
Actually,
you.
I wanted to cancel today. I've not been feeling well for.
But I think it always comes in waves, you know. That's the good part, that you're able to kind of ride it and overcome, even if you have those days. So I think
Yeah.
that's a great part of having that strong tag, that even if
Yeah.
you're vulnerable, you can kind of bounce
Come
back.
back.
But I also feel like, you know, we all go through this in our own personal spaces, in our professions, whether, you know, we're not comfortable. For example, for me, it could be like I'm not feeling comfortable in my body this weekend because of something. And I feel like no matter what anybody tells you from the outside that you are successful, you have XYZ, till you don't make peace with it within yourself, I don't think there's much, like, I don't think whatever anybody else says from the outside will actually ever help. So I feel like the relationship you share with yourself is one that is so important to build without all the, you know.
It's also the most difficult relationship to actually build and nurture, because
Yeah.
you don't want to show kindness to yourself, because
Yeah.
that voice that talks crap about yourself is always louder than the voice that's trying to be nice to yourself.
Why do
And
we
then
do that?
I don't know about y'all, but for me, then the imposter syndrome comes in, because then I feel like I'm not worthy enough to feel a certain way, do a certain thing. So it's good that I'm feeling bad, because pulling yourself down is so much easier than
Yeah.
making yourself.
It's comforting.
Yeah, it's comforting. It's also, it normalizes that imposter syndrome part of your head, right? Because you're anyway feeling like you don't deserve it. So then when you're feeling crap, you feel like, oh, this I deserve. So then it just normalizes in a way that it just makes it triple the amount of work that is needed to sort of build yourself back up again from what Pooja was saying, from the inside. It's not about, like, tomorrow my boyfriend can give me 10 compliments, my brother can say 20 good things
Doesn't
about me.
matter.
Yeah, like,
Doesn't
people
matter.
can be filling my, like, Instagram with good things to say, but if I'm feeling a particular emotion, that's not going to go away just because of external validation in that sense. But at the same time, I would rather have that external validation than have to deal with truth.
Yeah.
So there's no winning either way.
Exactly.
I have a thing to say about that because it's so scary. I think when I decided to transition, I just wanted to be a woman, as in the woman that I was. I didn't decide I want to be a pretty woman or an hourglass woman, or there was none of that, right? And I think as a doctor, the way that you look doesn't matter as much. It matters, but not as much as here. Wahan, if I had kajal on, it was like, is this a fashion show? What are you doing? It was that, or any amount of makeup. So I wanted to creatively explore, therefore, other avenues. But to then be someone who's in front of a camera, I realized how dysphoria inducing that is for me. And given that I started in a world that was so full of beautiful people, quote unquote beautiful women, I think, you know, it did make me very insecure. It did make me very vulnerable. And it did affect the way that I saw myself, 100%. And I think now, after all of this time, and I think it's also an age thing. I was really young, I was 23. I was so impressionable, I think. And I think over time, now I'm able to look at myself as woman enough in every shape and size, because we all fluctuate. No one is one thing. But there was this very internal feeling of not being woman enough, especially in relationships. Because, you know, the thing is, my parents have never pressured me on the marriage front because they knew that this is not going to be something that they can bring to the table. It's fine by virtue of who I am. But there was this one comment that I received. I don't get affected by comments anymore, but there was this one comment, and I traced it back to someone in my hospital earlier. And it was along the lines of, Aurat nahi hai, banj hai. You know, that she's become an infertile woman at the end of the day, not a woman. And that really, that hurt. Because, you know, at the end of the day, being woman enough means being that person that takes care of the kids, that has kids in the first place, that carries a pregnancy. And I will never be that. And as a result of being infertile, quote unquote, you're never going to be enough. And I internalized that to such an extent in relationships. I think I tolerated way more than I should have. Don't you sometimes feel, why did I stay that long in this nonsense relationship? What was this giving me in the first place? So there's been a lot of that, 100%. But I think it's finally come to a point now where I'm able to walk away from things that don't serve me because I've met wonderful people. I've met people who've treated me the way that I deserve, the way that I want to be treated. And so I know that the bar has been set by at least some good people, if not all. So, yeah, you need to know that self-worth, that sense of this is who I am, this is what I will tolerate, this is what I will celebrate, and this is what I will walk away from.
Yeah.
So if
As a sorry.
if it makes you feel better, when I first met you, you were more warm than most of the women I have met. Right? Yeah, she
Yeah.
was wonderful. We had an
That
amazing
was
time,
wonderful.
and I mean, you were
Yeah.
amazing. Your warmth just exudes femininity, or I don't know, just
Oh, that's so sweet.
inbuilt. You had that inbuilt protective nature. You know, you were just. She's very protective and caring.
Mhm.
She's a caregiver. Like you meet her for the first time. Yeah.
I
just-
do have that instinct for sure.
Yeah, so if that is, I don't. You meet me, you're like, oh, what the f-? So you are more women than I ever will be. If
No,
these are
but
the
you have your
qualities.
way
Yeah.
of being protective of the people that you
100%.
have in your
And it's not a
100%.
competition.
Yeah, I throw
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
I'm like, paise le lo, don't disturb
No,
me.
you
I
stand
get
up
this
for
a
them,
lot.
yes.
Amshara, this is something that I get so much as a compliment sometimes, where people will be like, "You're more woman than I am." What even is
Yeah,
that?
there's no
What does
comparison.
that
Every-
Okay,
mean?
then I'm sorry.
Like,
I was just trying.
like you can say,
I'm sorry. I'm trying. My words may be wrong, but my feelings
I'm not
are
talking
wrong.
about, I'm not talking about you,
Intention.
Urfi. I'm just saying, and
But I
that's.
said it.
I don't mean to sound full of myself. I'm very grateful for compliments. Who is not? But at the same time, it makes you also wonder, is it only because I look a certain way that I've done these things to myself and my body that now I'm worthy of your respect? Now I'm worthy of
Yeah.
being treated as pretty and beautiful? Or
Yeah, like what did it take
Well,
finally to get there?
you know.
Yeah.
But also, like,
Uh,
I feel like picking up from what you were saying, culturally, I don't know if it's an India thing or if it's just something that we've just seen in the media so much, but a woman is always only shown respect for the womanly qualities of किसी की बहन है, किसी की माँ है,
माँ है,
किसी की
yeah.
बेटी है. Even when we have people being trolled, the first thing someone will say is like, would you ever speak about your sister or your mother like that? I mean, we are individuals as human beings. We deserve respect, not just because we are somebody's.
Yeah.
somebody.
We can bear kids, or because we have kids, or because we have a
Hmm.
parent, or we have a sibling. I don't understand that whole concept, and I'm so sorry that somebody had to quantify your womanhood basis your womb. Like that makes no sense at all to
Or
me.
lack thereof.
Yeah, like it just makes no sense to me because there are quote unquote fertile women who may choose to never
Never
actually
have
fertile that womb of theirs.
Or more importantly, so many of us from the queer community, from the trans community, are disowned by mothers that birthed you,
Correct.
by your biological family, right? So the biology was there,
Yeah.
but where's the nurture,
Correct.
right? So I think being part of the queer community has taught me so much about what parenthood looks like, what chosen family looks like, because many a time our biological families do fall short, and you choose your family at the end of the day, and those relationships taught me what nurture looks like, And I think if I were to ever be a mom, which by the way in 2025 is so possible,
like-
Yeah.
what is the big deal around,
Yeah.
like my fertility is preserved in one clinic, I can use it if I want to. So it's not like, oh, she will never be a mom, whatever. Like these labels are so arbitrary and so random at
Yeah.
the end of the day. Why does it have to be this cell from this person's this organ to therefore be? I mean, come
Yeah.
on. I think that's one thing I know about motherhood, and my mother taught me this. There is no perfect mother, first of all, I understand this, but I want to be a mom one
Yeah.
day. That is for sure. Whether there's a man involved or not, I definitely want to raise a child.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
You know
In
who
this
said this?
economy, I don't know.
In this environment.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know who said this was Sushmita Sen on the podcast.
Yeah?
She was like, I just had this urge. She adopted, right, at the age of
She
24.
was very
So
young.
She was 24 when
so
she
young.
and she had to.
And so ahead of her time. then.
So you know how she had to adopt was that the court said we can't because there's no man attached that time.
Yeah.
So she had to get her father
Yeah.
to tell the court that his like collateral or his finances are effectively there for the kid. And she was at that point was just like, in Mehuna.
But I
and all those-
remember it was such a big thing in the news.
It
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
and
You
it
know,
was very
like
inspiring.
yeah,
And
it
but she was
really
in
I
a
think today
certain-
it is inspiring. At that time, she was really like not looked at as inspiring. She was looked at as being an anomaly who's really doing something that the society should
It's
not be
abnormal.
doing more
at
of.
all.
And
Yeah.
should not be accepted. That was inspiring to me then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was eye opening for a lot of
Yeah.
us because it showed so many people possibilities of motherhood that doesn't involve a partner.
And she fought for it, by the way.
Yeah,
it was not easy at all. Like, she still had to say that there is a male figure who's not her husband but her father. So she had to prove to the courts. You know, when you talk about this aspect of women, right, like nurturing, like you said something very interesting that, like, people from the queer community are disowned by their mothers or their parents, which is not very nurturing. The topic of kids, the topic of children is something so widely discussed, especially now. I'd love to ask you, you know, you are a mother, how is it? And then we'll take it from there with everybody else.
So motherhood is amazing, but to be honest, it comes with a lot of emotional and physical burden if you don't have the infrastructure. And to be fair, I have a lot of privileges because of which I can enjoy motherhood.
Yeah.
But today, motherhood, like she said, it's very expensive to raise a child, you know, especially in a metro like Mumbai. People have 2 children. It is, you know, there is emotional involvement, there's physical involvement, there is financial involvement. And so if you don't have all of that, then it's not fun.
Yeah.
But overall, I think motherhood is amazing. Everyone should, it's a privilege to experience, and if you can, you should. But I have so many friends who have chosen to not have children, right? And that's where it comes to the point about being a biological parents. But these friends, they've chosen to not have children, but they are amazing pet parents. They have nieces and nephews who they look after like their own children. So it really doesn't have to, you don't have to have a biological child to be a mother.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel as a mother, it is a great experience if you can afford it.
Yeah.
By afford it, I don't just mean money wise, I mean infrastructure wise, privilege wise. But if you can't afford it, then you shouldn't.
You should.
Yeah.
Pooja, what are your thoughts? We've been through a
Egg
egg freezing
freezing.
journey, both of us.
I don't know. I think growing up, I always thought my life would look very different. I thought by the time I would be 30, I would be married, have 2 kids.
Same.
Like that's the image that was
Haha.
painted. Yeah, it's very different from that, but it's a very good life. So yeah, I did freeze my eggs 2 years ago, and I don't know if I will ever use them, if I'll ever have kids. I don't know that yet, and I'm okay with not knowing for now. That's, you know, there is a security blanket, it's there.
Yeah.
But if I just feel like running and raising this business for the last 15 years has been like, you know.
Yeah. You always say, my baby. Whenever you tag Love 15, it's like, my baby turns 15. Your baby turns 15.
My baby's become a full-blown
Yeah.
teenager,
Yeah.
throwing many fits,
Gonna have
fighting with the mother a
tantrums,
lot. Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Rasika?
You know, the thing is that it was such a done thing to get married and have children that's why I never wanted to do it, you know, because I was fighting my own little rebellion, and so I felt like I spent most of my life not really trying to understand what I wanted, but just trying to not do what was expected because it was just irritating to be that, you know. So that's also another problem, I feel, you know, that you don't want to subscribe to norms and therefore you don't really spend time understanding what you really want, but just wanting to break
Be like
existing
subversive.
barriers and just being subversive, you know. So I think that now that I have become more comfortable with my bravado, I have sort of, when now I feel like that's established, I'm fine with that. I feel like now is the time when I'm having these conversations with myself. But yeah, it's still very irritating to me that the question for anybody who's been married for,
X
the
number of
question to a
years, yeah.
woman who's been married for a while is, when are you reproducing?
Yeah.
And
That's a never-ending loop, right? Until you're married, it's like, when are you getting married?
yeah,
Then when are you having
those are-
kids? Then first kid.
Yeah, and
Then
I think
they're
the
having the
second
next kid.
And I
But-
think the curiosity around that is always more with women than it is with men, which is always very annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess I was always I think clearly on one side that I don't think I can raise a child in this world. And, parenting is such a big thing today. There's so much more knowledge and there's so many ways to do it. And I know people who really spend a lot of time sort of working very hard towards being good parents, which is very great. And I sort of feel very daunted by all of
Yeah,
that. I feel like I don't think I will be able to do
it's
that.
interesting you say that, because for me, until I didn't have a child, I had no clue about the generational trauma that was passed on to me. It's when I was raising my child that I realized what all of our parents, right? The way a lot of things were normalized, which in today's day and age sound bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it is, controlling your child, whether it is parenting through fear.
Yeah, like bhoot aa jayega.
A
You know,
lot of parents-
things like that.
That was a daily thing.
Yeah, it was a very normal
Yeah.
thing.
So when I was raising my child, I realized that, oh my God, this was totally not okay. And it was
Yeah.
not just about my parents. I mean, my husband's parents, and everyone does the same thing, right? So I feel like if you want to have a child, you need to first heal yourself. Otherwise, you're just
Yeah.
passing on your generational trauma to
Yeah,
another
like I
human
spoke to
being.
my sister once and she has 2 children and she said, I'm going to this therapist just so that I can be a better mother. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's really,
But that's a thing.
That's a very
Yeah.
interesting thing. And I'm so glad that you're working so hard towards that. But yeah, so I'm on the fence
You're on
currently.
the fence.
But we just spoke about something where, like I used to be of the opinion that if you don't have the money, like don't have a child. But, my domestic help, Anita, right, for example, so I'm constantly coming out to people. You realize that coming out never stops. Like there's always someone to come out to. And I figure that at some point she'll find out because she's on Instagram and she'll like my stuff. And so she saw my profile and she was like, Didi, aap ladka thi. It's such a, I've never seen that conversation play out in my life.
So
I'm like,
refreshing,
so
but-
refreshing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to write a short film about this. Like,
Yeah.
this is so iconic.
That should be the title.
But also love that she said Didi.
Aap ladka.
Like she didn't forget that you
you're-
are
Didi. Yeah.
Who you are right now
So
does-
thi,
yeah.
not hai. Big difference.
Yeah.
But we sat down, and the thing is, she got married when she was 17 or 18, very
Yeah,
young.
very.
Had kids very young, she had no idea. And she's come to the city and she's wearing a t-shirt for the first time because it's just not something that people have
Do,
ever done
yeah.
in her city. And so, to her, the fact that I present my femininity a certain way is such a privilege
Correct.
to her from that caste and class background. So I think, I take so much of my privilege for granted, and it really takes you sitting down with that sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful to medicine for that because it really demands extraordinary empathy, or even basic empathy for that matter. And as an actor, you need that empathy.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
And I think these conversations, when I step out of my bubble, Bombay can really be lots of little bubbles. And you tend to get a little lost when you're trying to also, or you're taught to project a certain world to the outside world. But then it's important.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in any kind of
Yeah.
negative space, but I do think, at least for me personally, my womanhood has been a very privileged one, even as a trans woman in particular, right? With all of that, this thing. But I do think there's so much more to motherhood and parenting than I realize.
Yeah. Anshula, you have opinions about this also. We've discussed about motherhood, about kids, we're chatting offline. Let's share.
Sometimes offline must remain offline. No, but coming from another point of view, picking up on something that she just mentioned, beyond the financial or the economic setup that you sort of want to have when you have a child coming into your life, because you want to give the child the best of the world, and for that you must be able to afford the best of the world. I think another factor which plays heavy on my mind is it takes a village to raise a child, and I've seen that firsthand from my closest friends in the last couple years who've had kids. And for me, the biggest member of my village would have been my mom, and she's not here. So for me, a part of me wants to have a child so that I can have that relationship that I had with my mom with somebody else, and sort of have somebody else in the next generation remember my mom and carry that forward. But a huge part of me doesn't want to have a child simply because I am afraid that my village is not as populated. And I think somewhere down the line, grieving mom made me disassociate with a lot of the maternal feelings that I probably would have started developing in the early 20s when I lost her. Because the only way for me to cope with that grief was not to be as maternal. Having said that, and the people who know me here know that I have a nurturing instinct. I also have an instinct of wanting to make sure that everyone around me is taken care of in whatever way that is. I somehow don't know if that will translate onto a child as effectively, because I don't know how much of me there is to give, and I don't know if having a child will somehow trigger the trauma of dealing with my mom's loss and that entire grief cycle all over again. And I am currently, if you ask me, mentally not in the best place to make this decision right now, which is why there is a lot of ambivalence. Doors are not shut, but doors are not open either, because for me it goes way beyond the privilege of belonging to a particular family or coming from a particular socio-economic class. It has an added burden of my mental health and my physical capabilities of being the best parent to whoever comes into my life in that sense. Because I had the best mom. I know all of us think that we have great parents, but I genuinely, my mom was my entire universe and wrapped into one person. She was the only thing I ever needed for the 20 years of my life that I had her. And I would want to give that kind of life that she gave me to my child as well. I just don't know if I'm able to, and if I will be able to. And if I can't do that, why bring someone into this world? Or bring someone into my ecosystem, even if it's not like a natural birth, if it's an adoption or whatever it is. So yeah, like I have very complicated thoughts that keep playing in my head, and I'm having this conversation now on camera, but essentially speaking, this is not a conversation for the world to give their opinion on. Not because my body, but because I'm in a relationship. So the only other person who gets to have any sort of say in whether we are going to have children or not would be my partner in that sense. And nobody else should have as much of a say in it as the two people who would be the primary parents of that child. So yeah, I think I should leave it at that.
No, that was...
When you're talking about a womb, right? Like, because I was part of the conversation, I think something my mother and I joke about all the time is she lost her uterus to fibroids like some 10 years ago. And we essentially have the same anatomy or similar anatomy, right? So, because everything else is the same. And in society's eyes, then is she not female or woman enough because she doesn't, or is every post-menopausal woman not female because she doesn't have periods anymore, can't have kids? It's, these goalposts are so, and then when you put this stuff out there, people will be like, oh, but you have a Y chromosome, and I'll be, yeah, but Klinefelter syndrome, and there's like 20 different, you know, things that you can always argue with respect to that. So I think there is no real final goalpost to motherhood or femininity or womanhood. It is what you make of it. And speaking of generational trauma, I think it's such an interesting conversation. People assume because my parents didn't throw me out, I have none. Hello? Like, I think, you know, every single one of us, cis, trans, whatever background, we were all raised in India, or most of us were raised in India. That has a certain kind of, and you spoke about this so eloquently on the show, and we saw it also, right? Your relationships to your sisters and your mother and things like that. I think
it's all up.
It's all
because of
I wouldn't say effed up. I would say it's complicated. Like these relationships are complicated, and nobody has.
I would say we don't talk about it. We just let it slide in, and then we cry on round tables.
It's also a very, I'm sorry, but it's a very Western psychology thing to be like every single thing can be spoken about and talked out between parent and child.
It should be.
Of course, but this is also India. The same metrics
not everything, but you know, to some extent, some things should be. अभी नहीं करते तभी तो यहाँ बैठ के रो रही हूँ. करती होती तो थोड़ी यहाँ रोती मैं.
और हो रही होती.
Why? That's what I'm saying now, Urfi. Not everything can be sorted out at the end of the
Yeah.
It doesn't have to sort out कि नौबत ही क्यों आई?
I think it's just about letting the other
Yeah,
person know where you're standing and where your head's at, more than wanting them to solve it or
I can't do that.
better.
I'm sorry. Like for me, honestly, there are things that I know I can talk about and things I will never be
But
able to
it-
talk about.
I
and
wish I
it's
would
fine.
have, spoken about these things. हमारे घर में normalize होता rather than me right now resenting my parents. यार ये किया इन्होंने बचपन में मुझे ये किया तभी इसीलिए मेरा आज कोई boyfriend नहीं बन पा रहा है. But this is the reason. So, अभी उस टाइम सॉर्ट कर लिया होता तो आज मैं
I
ऐसी
wish.
नहीं
No, I
होती.
think I've come to a certain point. I think this is part of growing up. I realize. Please
Yeah.
tell me if you agree.
But I
that
think by the
there
time you
is-
realize what generational trauma is that you face,
Or just trauma in
you're
general.
So, you're old enough that and your parents are so old that it's too late to even have that
That's
discussion
what-
with them and
exactly.
change them.
So my
Like,
friend had a
Exactly,
joke. She
exactly.
said, "Listen, beyond 35, you're not allowed to blame your parents. It's all done."
Take the
Now,
ownership. That's
my
it.
mom has started saying this. She was like, "Sorry, you have a therapist. Deal with it and tell me."
Bitch me out there, not to me.
I'm not going to sit and listen to all this.
So, you
My
know,
God.
also everybody over here leads fairly public lives, right? Like inevitably, like you're on Instagram, you're on somewhere, like people have an in way to say things. Like you said that there was a comment that really triggered you, as it should have.
Yeah.
It was extremely unnecessary, extremely nasty. So how do you guys deal with criticism? How do you guys deal with judgment, right? Which is so often
Oh.
passed. Like, how do you guys deal with that, if at all?
Don't open Reddit.
Yeah. Don't know.
First of all,
That's like
never
that,
open
yeah.
that godforsaken platform which is
That's
such nonsense on it.
But you know, generally, not specifically to me, but generally, I find that hate for women online is very sexual in nature. You know, the comments are very abusive sexually, and that is
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very bothersome. You know, it just really makes you feel like, what kind of misogyny am I living in? You know, ki, that my body is the place of how a society connects to izzat and connects to bezati, you know, and that is just, I think that's something that you can never
Also,
eradicate.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so prevalent.
Yeah,
I mean,
when people want to troll women online, they will directly target इसका तो हो जाना चाहिए.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
she
वो
should,
बहुत ही problematic
yeah.
है. उसको देख के मुझे इतनी दिक्कत होती है, इतना fear instill हो जाता है अपने अंदर कि it's terrible. And that's not the case generally with men.
Most
They
of the
are
galis
none.
also are like women, like most of the galis, like
Is
by,
that
like all of your
नहीं
abusers
हो
are also female
Yeah.
only in that sense,
yeah.
but your goddesses are also female only. But
I am guilty.
So
sorry.
you know.
But I want to know how you deal with it, Urfi.
But you know, before we get there, yeah.
So much.
So before we get there, it also becomes a woman is very easily villainized, right? So
Yeah.
there's a very
Yeah.
interesting thing going on right now is that there are these separation rumors between a cricketer and his wife.
correct.
Whoa. Yes.
The comments on her handle are so triggering and so ridiculous in terms of people are like, you're getting the alimony, you married for the money, and there is no context, nobody has said anything that has happened, but it's automatically assumed that it's the woman. Or like, how often have we seen that if a cricketer is not performing, it should be
woman.
it'll be the
I
wife.
just
It'll be the-
uploaded a story a week back about this. Even few months back, another cricketer, same
Yeah,
incident.
same.
Yeah.
We have no idea. I uploaded a story exactly, and the girl messaged me also that thank you for
Yeah.
supporting me. So she told me how it's been very tough on her, and only she knows the real. None of us know.
Nobody knows.
Because in our head, our cricketers are hero.
yeah.
वो तो कुछ गलत कर ही नहीं सकते हैं. बच्चा है दूध पीता.
But you
मतलब
know,
क्या?
you know the most triggering thing, I read a comment from a woman saying dancer ने अपनी सही रूप दिखा दी. Like it's like you showed your true colors.
But
You're just a cheap
you
dancer.
still read the most decent comment.
I was
so
mad
decent.
triggered. I went and
This is
put like 10 hearts on her post and said like, you know, like,
You've
Yeah.
read the most decent comment. I have read comments all sorts. We have no idea what's going on between these two, and maybe the guy was wrong, but in our head as Indians, it is always the women who is villainized for separating from her partner, or if, God forbid, the partner does something or says something, it's always the women. If we knew even few facts, then I'm okay. Let's take sides. If we knew what was going on, but none of us knew, we just assumed just because he is a cricketer, he has money, we are assuming ये लड़की तो गरीब है, डांसर थी, इसके पास तो पैसा होगा ही नहीं, इसने तो पैसों के लिए ही शादी करी है, तो फिर क्या वो क्रिकेटर का दिमाग नहीं है? इतना बड़ा क्रिकेटर है, मतलब सब दुनिया चला रहा है, उसको नहीं पता कि पैसों के लिए शादी कर रही है. Why will he choose a girl like that? Why will he choose a gold digger? So if you've chosen a gold digger, he must have known that this is going to happen. Then go
Speaking
for it.
of gold diggers, Urfi, sometimes when men call women gold diggers, I'm like, where is the gold?
दिखा दो.
Where is the
Like,
gold?
where is? I'm sorry, but gold diggers don't go after 50-50 dinner. Where are the Birkins?
Yeah.
Where are the?
But like, if you just say something very interesting as well, online people troll or bring down the woman in these famous relationships always to be like, she's the reason why, or she's not enough, or she did too much. Whatever it is always her fault.
But
Like
mostly,
Virat didn't hit a six, it's Anushka's fault.
But
in that
mostly it
sense,
happens
but-
when the girl they feel is financially below that person.
No, regardless, like when
Right,
Virat
so
was not
Anushka
performing,
Sharma
and Anushka
was
Sharma was being
madly
told
bad.
she's the reason
Yeah.
of his cricket
Yeah.
performance
Even
not
with
being
Rohit
at
Sharma,
Usha Kapila, yeah.
Rohit Sharma.
But
her-
what I'm
her-
trying to
her-
get at
hate
is,
she got.
can we imagine people in our own lives? Because now, come on, we're in 2025. Divorces, separations, annulments, marriages not working out, relationships not working out is a very common thing. We're not in the 90s anymore where divorces are not common, etc., etc. Can you imagine if and how if this is happening with people in our lives who are going through a separation, and that there are girls in those relationships feeling like the whole world is against them because their actual world is against them and everyone is supporting the man? How can we actually see that in our own lives and actually make a difference? She posted a story for somebody who's so public, and she reached out and she thanked Urfi.
Because it meant something to her.
If she is being victimized and villainized for something that she's perhaps not done while she's
Yeah.
trying to process the grief of an entire life and relationship ending, I don't think as a society we have that empathy or sympathy
Yeah.
to even give that to the people around us. So if you can't even give that to the people who are in your own ecosystem, people you know and people you've lived with and people you've perhaps eaten meals with and spent time with, how can you expect those same people to give any kind of privacy, decorum, love or respect to an online stranger when the entire country literally thrives on bashing people?
Yeah.
Because
You
if
know,
you are
and-
famous, you deserve to be bashed
Correct.
because you put yourself out,
Out
there.
there.
If
And
you
you're
put
there for the
yourself out there
public.
for the praise
Yeah.
and for the accolades, then you need to put yourself out there for the brickbats, regardless of whether you chose to have your private life spoken about.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a perspective of we just like
Yeah.
and negative talking because that gives us joy. If our own life is
And so
messed up,
many-
it gives us joy to project that outwards as opposed to deal with our own
So
shit.
many women do it for other women, which baffles me. Like and without, I'm saying if there is fact and if there is truth out there, right, then you can make your own judgment. There's no context. You have zero idea. So when it comes to dealing with judgment, dealing with trolls, how have you dealt with it?
Most days I'm okay, I don't care. But then one day it just hits you like, ये क्या हो गया? Like you're just crying. Like today. So you don't realize it.
Yeah.
You can give me your opinion on my craft or the reason why I've put myself out there, or on my personal life or my choices if you want, because okay, fine, I've put myself out there. But there could be people in my life who have not made that decision.
Yeah.
Children of famous celebrities, partners, friends, they've not opened their life up to people, to the world at large. Why must you troll them?
Yeah.
See, but
If you want to
can't-
attack me,
you
attack
can't
me.
expect the
There's
world
no
to be
boundaries.
nice.
I get
There is
that,
no
I
boundaries.
get
And that's what I'm
that.
saying. That was very naive of me to expect that then all the
You
brickbats
can't.
would be directed at
Directed
me and not to my ecosystem.
Yeah.
So then again, it makes you feel like how much of your life do you still want to project? How much of it do you not want to project? How do you actually have the conversation with people around in your ecosystem saying that, boss, if you're going to be on my profile, you may be getting some of this coming
Yeah.
your way as well. Are you okay with it, or should I completely keep you off of it?
Correct. Yeah.
So-
I think for me it was it's been a very interesting part to separate myself from the business. So like when I would read reviews and someone would have something negative to say about, I'd have to really train myself to not take it personally and just be like, okay, can I use this to make the business better? Like, can I just separate myself from what people are saying about that? And then I went on TV last year, and then everyone was like, and I made peace with that.
Now
and
you
then went
can't
on TV,
separate it
and I can't separate. And they're like, we don't like her, and I was like, okay, can't do anything about it. It is what it is.
You are unfortunately not a jar of Nutella.
But if I have to give some advice to people watching and to everyone, 2 advices: don't read your comments. Second, don't take advice from people you wouldn't take criticism from. If those people criticizing you or abusing you are literally, you don't know them, would you take advice from random people? Then why should I take criticism and abuses from them? So just don't. First rule of social media, which I have learned: don't read your comments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't, please.
Or even I think in whatever, being a public figure in any capacity, online or off, something that I've really realized is the city has a way of making you give a crap about things that don't matter.
Yeah.
And people and their opinions, they just don't matter. Do I respect this person? No. Do I know this person? No. But there is a certain hypothetical them that I should care about. Why?
Yeah, why?
It doesn't matter.
Because people pleaser.
Yeah, no, when I moved here, I drive a Verna, which I bought in 2018 with my doctor money. I was so proud of it. It's still my car to this day. And when I came here, someone was like, you can't go to this screening in this car. Are you sure? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why is this a thing in our world? And I understand that it is, but I come from a very middle class family where these things, the value of the first car, the value of the first thing that you buy with your money, it's a huge deal.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
And my dad's first car was a second-hand Maruti 800. That's the world I grew up in. So it's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I remember my family being like, she bought a sedan. That is so cool.
Yeah. It is
so-
something to be proud of.
Yeah, so I think there are things that we need to shut out because they don't matter,
Matter.
and you need to know who you are and
Yeah.
what your value is and what your worth is. And when that's very secure, the bad days as a result of a bad comment will decrease.
Yeah.
For sure, And also, I have to say this. When I underwent facial feminization surgery, I was very public about it because I really do believe if you've got a young audience and they're impressionable, some degree of transparency, healthy,
Yeah.
important, right? But I got no hate.
Wow.
None.
Refreshing. Yeah.
No one said a damn thing. I don't know behind my back, but on social media, it was
It was
not
not
a thing
that-
at
yeah.
all.
Yeah.
On Reddit, there was
There is
some
hope.
nonsense, I'm sure. There is hope.
There is hope.
I was like, so people do understand that, okay, this was a gender affirming thing, and even if it wasn't, it's a woman doing something that she wants with her body.
Yeah.
Leave her alone.
Yeah.
That's
So I
very
think-
refreshing to
To
know
hear
that,
that,
that
thank
people
God.
are adulting
Yeah.
in a way that matters.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I'll get some nonsense about, but very
It's very
little.
little bit,
Very
yeah.
little.
How has it been for you? Have you faced any of this at all?
A lot with related to Veena Tripathi.
Really?
Because I mean, not hate, but just sexual comments, right?
Right.
Because she's a woman who is comfortable with being sexy.
Yeah.
So that I get a lot of. In fact, if I post a photo of a flower, also I'll get "Bhabhi, tel laga do na पैरों पे." Yeah, it's full of that. You can, but I mean, honestly, I guess because it's a character,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt me personally. In fact, on most days, I find it very amusing and kind of an academic study of the society we live in.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sort of looked at it like that because this is a confirmation of what I always knew,
Yeah.
and which is why it becomes so much more important to play the part that I'm playing, because this is a script which is not actually doing that.
Yeah.
It's saying many other things also. But yeah, there is a section of society which will take it in this way, and I'm not saying that I support it and I'm not saying I condone it, but it is there.
It is what
It
it
is
is.
there.
It is
And
what it is.
My only way to fight it is to continue to do what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess I'm making the right noises.
Yeah.
Not intended.
But I have a question to ask you, Rasika, as actor, because I think that, you being on social media, right, you're not being a character, you're being yourself to whatever extent. Like, people have different degrees of that. Because for me, I was all about Trinetra, then becoming various characters and Meher and things like that. But I realized that to people, it's sometimes all the same thing. Like, it's one person, right? So when you have, say, Abina being sexualized by fans, like, it's love in a weird, contorted sort of way, so is the hate, right? Like that's something that really bugs me. It's like people giving you those galis are of the same mentality who are sexualizing you and giving you love also. So then how do you, like, do you take that well? Do you not take that well? What's your relationship to that? You know?
Before, shout out to Rasika, you're a fab actor.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The first time I watched your short film Chutney,
Ah,
crazy
that's
man.
a fun film.
That's where
Yeah.
I first saw you, and then Mirzapur, like
I was a fan of Beena.
Chutney,
and
is that the
Mirzapur.
murder?
There's like this
Yeah,
entire
yeah, yeah.
cast, and I was
It's a
like,
murder
I
thing,
want this
right?
woman.
Like, yeah, I watched it. I love
then I
it.
saw her in Mirzapur.
Yeah. All that I didn't get to do in life.
Just like, no, I'm going to go watch Mirzapur.
Yeah.
Crazy acting, and she's one of the best actresses in India right now.
Oh, thank you.
100%.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, to answer the question, it is, you know, you can disassociate from it because it's a character, like I just said, you know, and it would be much harder if it was about me than when it's about Beena, you know. And I actually find it very cathartic to play a role like that. My God, every time I say that, I feel like no, actually, because it is really a side of myself which I have sort of not allowed myself to be in life. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not talking about the killing. I'm talking. I'm just talking about, you know, being somebody who's really so comfortable being sexy, and that's not something that I own easily in life. You know, it is a struggle for me to be that and to see myself like that, because I've always seen myself as, you know, and or seen myself as Mr. Cellophane, you know,
Correct.
somebody who doesn't walk into a room and ask for attention,
Yeah.
just by being there.
But
And
you're so
she-
sexy though.
and
What does that say?
I get to be that with her, and I totally love it. And so I guess that kind of helps, and I'm mostly amused by it. Honestly,
Yeah.
I am amused by it, but I'm not saying that I support that either. You know,
Of course.
I mean that's not desirable for
Correct.
anything, but yeah, it's quite amusing.
Makes sense.
Guys, we're down to the last segment. It was amazing. Just final thoughts, right, on what we can encourage more people to do, our society, the very many things that we've spoken about, the different aspects of vulnerability, or like women bashing, or like even women encouragement that has happened in terms of uplifting women. What piece of advice would you guys give of how we can be better this Women's Day?
Should I start?
Yeah.
I don't think it's about being better. I think it's about just owning who you are. And something that I've struggled with my entire life is owning who I am, and not just celebrating who I am, but being nice to myself. So my only advice to you, I guess my parting words would be, I tend to talk really nicely to people who I hold dear to my dear to my heart. I will give them the best advice. I will speak to them encouragingly. I don't do that often with myself. So talk to yourself as upliftingly as you would talk to somebody that you love. And that's half the battle won in terms of breaking that negative thought cycle that keeps playing in your head about you're not good enough, you're not doing enough, you're not worthy enough. All of those negative, devilish thoughts will sort of become half if you actually show yourself that kindness. So that would be my parting word.
Yeah. Urfi?
Yeah, because I needed to hear it. I mean, I just feel like most of the time we compare us to other women and we try to bring them down. Just maybe slightly stop doing that. If I know we all get jealous, I also get jealous कि इसकी life easy है, ये तो बड़ा वो है, ये देखो ये कहाँ पहुँच गई है क्योंकि इसका ये. Maybe instead of that, just start encouraging people and not speak shit about women in general behind their backs, or like ये तो सो गई होगी उसके साथ तो इसको ये मिल गया है. That's how you. But that's what people do when they see someone getting up or even getting some things that we wanted. That's what we do. So maybe not spread rumors about people like that. That's it. Just appreciate that, oh, she's achieved it. Don't be happy for her. Appreciate it and just maybe hope that one day you'll be there. There is enough room for everyone in this world. We all can be successful. कहीं नहीं लिखा है कि अगर वो एक successful हो गए आप नहीं होगे. जो आपके लिए बना है वो आपके लिए बना है. कोई किसी की जगह नहीं लेता है.
Many applause.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Pooja?
I feel like, so Oprah says this a lot, like you have an internal navigation system, like an internal GPS. I feel that it's very important to tune in and really listen to what you want to do, no matter. That's the one thing I decided last year, that no matter who told me do this, do that, I will always listen to what feels right to me and lead from there. I feel in the past, many times I didn't do the right thing because I got so overwhelmed by the advice I got from people who I thought knew better. So I think my advice would just be to like quiet everything outside and try to, link to that internal navigation system and then take decisions from what feels true to you.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. And die Oprah, I said it. What about you?
So I think if there's one piece of advice I want to give every woman out there, right, because this is on Women's Day, it is that try to be as financially independent as possible. Because money, I know there's a lot of negative talk around money as well, but if you use it positively as a tool, it helps you make all the choices that you want to make, whether it is a career choice, whether it is staying in a relationship or getting out of a toxic one, whether it's having children, not having children, staying with in-laws, not staying. Any decision is based on, any out is based on whether you're financially independent or not. And I say this because statistics show that 80% of women, not in India, just across the world, outlive their spouses. Which means that in all likelihood, most of us are going to live longer than our husbands. And just by virtue of that happening, you need to be retirement ready. You need to have your finances in place so that you will be the one looking after, the family or elders, your children at some point in time. So I think my only advice is, because it's really worked for me, and I got lucky because I was in this profession. I got access to a lot of the right people and hence was able to become financially independent. But this is the one piece of advice I give every young woman out there, that forget everything, forget every guy, forget marriage, forget children. Put that all on the on the back burner and just focus on being financially independent.
That's great advice.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I would just say do it your way. I mean, fight the battles that you have to, and have fun, and and acknowledge your great sense of humor, because very often people don't associate that with women.
Yeah.
So I think that so enjoy your sense of humor.
And you have a great sense of humor. I think I'm just a fan.
Thank you.
And we will end and close with you.
Oh, I'm the last one.
Yeah.
Everyone said their
Yeah.
thing.
I
Okay,
think,
okay.
Kari, we should end with you.
Cool, cool.
okay.
Yeah.
Huh? What?
We'll end with
Oh, with you,
Kari.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
of course, 100%. I think earlier I spoke about resilience, right, as being so fundamental to womanhood. It is, but as advice, I would say walk away from things that don't serve you.
Yeah.
Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a professional equation, I think we really have to get comfortable with saying no. I've struggled with it. I've finally gotten to a point of being like, okay, you know what? I can be cordial to you. I can be very nice to you. We don't have to be best friends. We don't have to be, it's okay if we have boundaries in relationships, but those boundaries as a woman are essential, right? And I think find your boundaries. It's been the one thing that I've worked on in therapy, and I think it's been life-changing. I would want every single woman to have that if you can. So that, and the other thing would be, and I've said this so many times over the course of today also, womanhood looks different to everybody,
Yeah.
right? It will never be the same thing to two people, and find your own kind, whether you were assigned it at birth or not, and make it beautiful, whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
And I find mine very beautiful. I just hope everyone gets to have that.
Okay, Karishma.
Yeah, so I'll say this before I close, that I think the one thing I've learned in my journey is that it's okay to be selfish sometimes. As women, we have a lot of guilt when you're selfish or you put your needs before other people's, because you're generally, like you're trained or conditioned to be like, okay, let me put everybody else first. But it's okay to put your needs first. If you need something and that's making you feel good, it's totally okay. And I've learned after a lot of years to not feel guilty about it. So that would be my close. But thank you all for being such an amazing part of this conversation. And I hope that it actually adds context to everything that's going on, and that people take away something to make it kinder, and women take something to be nicer to themselves. And I hope that that was served today. So thank you all for coming, and it was the best roundtable.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for being the best community, and we'll see you in the next one.